My dearest Papa, I know that I am betrothed to Lord Abraham George Puffleton III, but my heart truly belongs to Master Beauregard Barrington V. Ever since we met those 3 years ago, I knew that he was the one, and I have decided to run away and start a new life with Beauregard. I hope that you...
Nick, this is supposed to be Baroque, not Regency.
Salut mes enfants, your father has brought you a new swatching video. Mooncat recently released their Baroquen collection, which no, does not need any fixing, but is inspired by the Baroque era movement of art, fashion, and poetry that dominated high society in the 1700s. Actually, it was the 17th century, not the 1700s. Sorry, thanks Wikipedia. Specifically, this collection takes major inspiration from the late Baroque or Rococo style. He just turned to look at me as I said Rococo style. Well, remember, we do believe that he is Napoleon reincarnated.
Oh, I think he's Genghis Khan.
Born in 1769, that was the late Baroque Rococo era.
Are you Napoleon? You certainly have a Napoleon complex.
Little man syndrome. And while I'll admit it, I don't know a ton about the inspiration, I do know a fair amount about nail polish, so I think I'm somewhat qualified for this video. I'm gonna show the new collection, how they compare to things in my collection, and them over black as well, so let's get into that. First up is La Petite Mort. Am I just overdoing the French R now, just to flex my Duolingo skills? Le français! Oh, that's inappropriate. Please don't demonetize me. Titan, are you done? Thank you. This polish is described as a light blue magnetic lacquer filled with a holographic shimmer, iridescent flakes, holographic glitter, and a silver magnetic stripe. For magnetic polish, I like to build it up to full opacity first before I do a magnetic coat, because I don't like to wait as long on the magnet. For this polish, when it's unmagnetized, the silver pigment really takes over and it doesn't actually look that blue. However, when using the magnet, the silver pigment is pulled inwards to make the magnetic stripe, leaving the blue behind and totally transforming this color. Color? Not color, polish. I mean, it does change color. I do like the flakes added in because it does give this polish some nice texture, and it is reminiscent of Nocturne from their Fallen collection or Scum and Villainy from the Star Wars collab. And as always, my final tip is that you need to leave your finger on the magnet when applying the top coat too, that way you can lock in that magnetic pattern. This is voiceover.
I have to sneeze.
God bless holding on to your cough drop.
It's in my pouch.
Oh. Like a little chipmunk. As for comparisons, the closest I thought of was Mercury and Retrograde because they have a similar base color and are both magnetic. However, that's really where the similarities end, as La Petite Mort is really a silver polish with a blue shimmer as opposed to a blue polish with a silver magnetic stripe. Plus, there is a slight difference in the color of the magnetic stripe as La Petite Mort leans ever so slightly yellow. So overall, I like this color, but I am a little magneticed out since the Star Wars collection. But also, I'm really impatient, and because I change my nails so frequently, I don't really have the time to sit there and do a full magnetic manicure, so I'm probably not going to reach for this unless I'm really in a magnetic mood. It is a nice color, however. Moving on, we have Such Sweet Sorrow. That is hard to say still. Such Sweet Sorrow, Titan.
He's just chewing the leg. Chewing Capote.
This polish is a blurple shimmery polish that color shifts from purple to pink. Blurple. Such a good word. This formula is one that I associate with Mooncat because they really excel at these glittery, shimmery polishes with a slightly larger glitter shimmer size. For example, we got several polishes in this finish in the Pandora Unboxed collection, such as the Root of All Evil or the Arsonist. And because the shimmer picks up the light so well, it looks pretty good on camera in just 2 coats, but there was a little bit of visible nail line at extreme angles, so I added a 3rd one to get to full opacity. As for the comparisons, I put it next to the Glory of Innocence and Ghost Ship, which are both purpley polishes. The Glory of Innocence is actually a linear holographic polish with a green shimmer, so not alike, but has a similar base color. And Ghost Ship is similar in tone, but is a magnetic polish with a silver magnetic stripe. And so it has a similar base color, but it's a true purple, while Such Sweet Sorrow color shifts and pulls more pink. So overall, I like this color, but I think it pulls a little too pink for something that I would wear on its own. I do want to see how something like this layers because it is just sheer enough that it has some potential as a topper. Stick around to the end of this video because I tested some of these polishes over black, and on to the next one. Here we have Stolen Kiss. Here we have the Stolen Kiss. This is described as a lilac pink lacquer that is filled with yellow to blue to green color shifting shimmers that gives it this almost chromey effect. Did I do it word for word in the first try?
You said chromey instead of chrome, but I'm pretty sure that the copy said chromie and you changed it to say chrome effect.
Oh, so girl memorized the copy? Now this one was super sheer, but I kind of knew that going into it because it's so light, which is why I tried to combat that with a layer of pink smoothing base first. For this swatch, it took 3 coats to get to full opacity, but at extreme angles, there was still a little bit of visible nail line. When I filmed this, I had longer nails, and the visible nail line shows especially well when— oh, goodbye, Titan. When I filmed this, I had longer nails, which shows the visible nail line more, especially when backlit, but now that I'm a part of the Nub Club, 3 coats probably would have been fine. I personally didn't see the color shift or the lilac aspect of this color because on camera, it really just looks like a rose gold pink shimmery polish. As for comparisons, I put it next to the Lust for Vengeance and After the Rain. Now, I'm well aware that none of these are that close, but I know I grabbed the Lust for Vengeance because it's a similar formula, that being a super sheer, full of shimmer polish, but ultimately, it's an entirely different color.
I think it's called Lust for Vengeance.
What did I say?
The Lust.
Why do I love adding articles to things? Because I am Little Robot. As for After the Rain, looking back at this footage, I have no idea why I grabbed it. Like, no idea at all. Is it because it's actually lilac, or because it has a pink-orange shimmer? Like, honestly, no clue, but it's in this footage, so I gotta say something about it. It's different. So overall, as you might know, I don't really care for pink polish personally, so this one doesn't do anything for me, but it's still a really nice polish, and I think for people who do love pink polish, this is something that they'll really enjoy, and I'm happy for them. How do I say this one?
I think it's Fleur, Sauvage.
Sauvage? Go to Google.
Sauvage.
Sauvage?
Sauvage.
Sauvage? Do the slow one.
Sauvage.
Moving on, we have Fleur Sauvage. This polish is described as a light orange lacquer filled with a chromy pink shimmer. And honestly, this one is kind of like the orange cousin of the Stolen Kiss, which was the last color, so I don't really have much more to say about it that I didn't already say. The biggest difference is that it's an orange polish with that similar shimmery shine. I wonder if these two polishes are intended to be shimmery neutrals for people, and if that's the case, I really like seeing more than one color in order to accommodate for skin tone diversity. And like before, this one needed 3 coats to get to full opacity, but it did have slightly more opacity than the last one because of the deeper orange base. As for comparisons, I grabbed 2 other orangey shimmery polishes by Mooncat, those being Witch Hazel and Poems for a Harvest Moon. This polish is clearly different from the other two. Low-key, it looks like a good mix of them both, as it has the shimmery aspect of Witch Hazel but the saturated orange base of Poems for a Harvest Moon. So clearly not a dupe, but a good in-between if you want to do a Skittle Manny of these 3 colors. Overall, I like this color more than the last one because of the more vibrant color, but ultimately because it's not a pink polish. Sorry, pink polish lovers. Moving on, we have Banquet of Breadcrumbs. This polish is described as a bright yellow-green lacquer filled with a yellow-green chromy shimmer. Now, she was really sheer, which is why it took 4 coats to get to full opacity. And there was still a very tiny amount of visible nail line at 4 coats, but I try not to do more than 4 coats of polish in a review video because I think that's pushing it for the average consumer, and I want to show what you're probably going to be wearing when you actually get this polish. However, I think it is kind of required for this one because of how light and shimmery this polish is. But what's nice about this formula is that even though it was sheer, it was also really even, which gives it a lot of potential as a topper. As for the comparisons, I put it next to my other bright green polishes, those being My Bugs from Mooncat's Nightmare Before Christmas collab collection and Totally Jaded by Prism Parade. Do you like how I added the prism to make sure I said it right there? Neither are dupes, as Banquet of Breadcrumbs looks more sage-leaning green than vibrant, saturated, maybe lime green of the other 2 polishes. Plus, neither polish has the chromy shimmer, making this one stand out. So overall, even though this one did take 4 coats to get to full opacity, it's still one of my favorites from the collection. I think it's because of its potential as a topper, kind of making this multiple polishes in one, and it's just one that I'm excited to play with. Next up, we have Love's Labyrinth. This polish is a light sage green linear holographic lacquer that was probably my favorite from the collection. It had great coverage in the first coat, but I did do 2 coats just to be safe, but this one has a lot of potential as being a 1-coat polish. It seems like this sage green color is all the rage right now, for example, the recent Holo Taco launch. But quick sidebar, I consume a lot of Sims content, and it feels like this sage green color has shown up in the palette of recent packs, so it's just another example of how this color is really taking over. And if you are also interested in Sims, make sure you check out my Sims manicure that I did recently. It's one of my favorite videos that I've made. Go show it some love. Not sorry for the shameless plug. Please watch that video, I'm very proud of it. I put this next to other light, maybe pale green colors in my collection. The first one I thought of was Mint Mojito by Holo Taco, as that was from their Pastel Linear Holo collection. And while it is similar as a linear holo, Mint Mojito is a much more saturated green and is much shinier, as Christine is really the queen of holo. I also wanted to try to dupe it with Holo Taco's Touch Grass and Linear Holo Taco, which was quite similar, but I think the base color of Love's Labyrinth is a tiny bit lighter, and since it has the holo built in, there's a greater density of the linear holo pigment. Finally, I put it next to Sagebrush by Mooncat, which is my favorite sage green polish. Unfortunately, it was quite cold when I was filming this, and in the cold state, it's a really desaturated forest green, so it looks nothing alike, but I'll add a picture of it in its warm state now so you can see how similar it does look. So overall, this one is probably my favorite from the collection because I know it's just a trend, but I'm a real big fan of that sage green color, and adding that linear holo just makes this pop, and I love it. Last up for the polishes, we have Castle of Cobwebs, which I'm wearing now. This polish is described as a slate gray glow-in-the-dark lacquer filled with a blue shimmer that glows green in the dark. On the first coat, it was quite sheer, but also pretty even, leading to some good potential as a topper. For this swatch, I did just 2 coats, but several days later I painted this on myself, and it needed 3 coats to get to full opacity because there was a lot of visible nail line, even with my shorter nails. However, I think that is just a consequence of this specific formula. Since it has the light blue shimmer in it, it does need to be sheer enough in order for that to show through. I do also want to add that if you've never used a Mooncat glow-in-the-dark polish, it does feel a little gritty during initial application. I think that's just a pigment that is a part of their glow-in-the-dark formula, which makes it so glowy, but I wanted to make sure to let you know so that way you don't get concerned when you're doing the application. As for the comparisons, I put this next to 2 other glow-in-the-dark white-ish polishes. First being Ragdoll, also from the Nightmare Before Christmas collab collection. This one has the similar blue shimmer, but is ultimately a blue polish. I also put it next to Green-Eyed Monster, which is totally different as it's a white polish with a hint of green shimmer. When the lights are off, Green-Eyed Monster had the strongest glow, but that could be because it was the lightest base, or it could be because it was sitting closest to the light that I was using for this shot. Regardless, I love me some gray polish, I love me some glow-in-the-dark polish, making this also one of my favorites of this collection. Just to warn you, if you've never worn glow-in-the-dark polish before, you might get spooked when you see your fingers glowing at you at 2 in the morning. I personally love it. It's a little personal nightlight. Protect me from the monsters! And finally, we have the topper Hall of Mirrors. This is a silver flake topper that I am in love with. First of all, I love toppers because I love being able to play with polish, but I also love pretty much anything metallic, so this is just, I love it. Like, I think that this is probably my favorite polish from the collection. The only thing this is similar to is Silver Flake Taco by Holo Taco. It seems like they have a similar silver tone, but the flakes are slightly smaller and more dense in Hall of Mirrors than in Silver Flake Taco. I do want to note that Mooncat let me know that this was their pre-production batch of this polish, and my version might tarnish slightly over time, so they are sending me another one that would match what you'd be getting. It isn't here yet, but I haven't noticed any tarnishing in my version. I just wanted to share that for full transparency. So overall, I'm in love with this polish. Literally all I wrote when I was taking my initial notes while swatching this was just f***ing love this. I didn't even say I f***ing love this. I just said f***ing love this. That's all I wrote. So here's the full collection. My favorites are all in the second set because they are more of a color palette that I would turn to for myself. I did also want to see how they all looked with the topper over it. I think it's a nice touch over some of the polishes, but does get lost over others because they're so shiny. I don't think this topper is intended to be on top of everything in this collection, but more so to add to your nail polish catalog when you want to add a touch of silver over a manicure. But I wanted to play with this collection a little, so it's time for a super quick WOMO. WOMO, what's on my other hand? I'm wearing Outlaw Country, also by Mooncat, which is probably my favorite Mooncat polish ever. And I topped it with Banquet of Breadcrumbs, turning it into this lime green silver delicious manicure. I finally added Hall of Mirrors to bring back some of that silver shine. And I just love this combo, and I want to play more with using Outlaw Country as the base of other combos because it turns everything into a metallic polish and I'm just obsessed. Finally, I tried most of the polishes over black to see how they'd perform. The only one I omitted was the Linear Holo polish, as its coverage was so impressive that it really wouldn't look any different over black. The standouts for me are the middle 4 colors, as they just look like deep gemstones when they're over black. I think La Petite Mort is nice, but like a fool, I did add a second coat to remagnetize it before before the wiggle shot, effectively eliminating the over black effect I was experimenting with, so sorry about that. But this shows how versatile the sheer polishes are, as you can wear them as their dark mode if you're not a fan of the original pastel colors. So now that you've seen everything, let me know in the comments below what was your favorite from the collection. Did you pick up any of them, or are you currently Baroque and gonna pass on this collection? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And before we go, I wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge and recognize the support and positivity that I've received recently, especially how much the most recent video, the cottagecore one, just blew up. I'm just blown away by how that video has done. So, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. Okay, I do have to point out where Titan is, though. They all have to see that this right here is a Titan.